gentlemen, it is now 5:33 p.m. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Work Session of Monday, May 5th, 2025. Did anyone sign up to speak on any item listed on the work session agenda?
No one signed up. Please proceed.
All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is report on the City Council meeting decisions of April 10th and May 1st. Is there anything, I think the packet had indicated we might get some more information, or is that what was just handed to us?
You should have, should be passed out. So the one in the packet is blue and the new one is orange. So.
All right, was there anything else other than what's in the materials that have been provided? Okay. All right, then, okay, the next item is review of the public hearing items. So we'll just go on to that.
Okay. A couple of things on the consent agenda. You have a revised version of the minutes for Monday, April 7th. Thank you, Josh, for the pointing out the reflects the going into executive session. So that's on there. So when you make your motion, please make it for the revised minutes for April 7th, as well as, of course, the March 17th. And then also...
So should we do that one separately then, as a separate motion for the minutes?
This is just news to me, so I will look at it and let you know.
Okay, great, thanks.
And then one of the items that was on disapproval, item number 4, 202579PL, is now ready for approval, so you can add that one to the consent agenda approval. So 2, 3, and 4 will actually be the items for approval, and items 5 and 6 will still be for disapproval. I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Any questions on those? And just clarification, the issue on the minutes for the planning and zoning work session from our last meeting was that it didn't mention that we had gone into closed session. So that was, I just asked that that be added into that. So that's in your packet that we got today. There's something that's tabbed, flagged there. So that's where it indicates the one change to those minutes. Anything else? No? I think we're ready to go on to item 7.
7 is conditional use permit 2024-447-CUP. You saw this last time. It did go to City Council. It was postponed and then re-advertised, so now you get to see it again. So.
Alrighty, good evening. Haley Riddick here with Planning. Was it on?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So like Kim was saying, this is for conditional use permit 2024-447 CUP. It's located at 2700 North O'Connor for Suite 124. So they are requesting for an event center within 500 feet of our single-family residential district. Also for the event center being over 2,000 square feet, and then a variance to the required parking. After review, staff recommendation is denial. And in terms of public comments, there have been none in support and 22 in opposition. 21 from tenants of a neighboring suite within the shopping center, and the other from a nearby residence. And so this is the aerial of the property. So you can see that there's 2 properties on this, 2 buildings on this property, and it's the southern one. And then the future land use map, which is local commercial, the zoning. And then this is the property owners that were notified within 200 feet. And then this is where the opposition was. So in terms of the actual property owners, it was this one right here. Sorry. And then this is their site plan. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, since it is 0 feet from property line to property line of single family residential, it triggers a conditional use permit. Also that size, for it being over 2,000 square feet also triggers it, and they're going for 3,897. And then for the parking, what's required is that 1 space per 100. So based on their square footage, it comes out to 39 parking spaces. But when taking away from the previous tenant or use of that suite and then comparing it to it, looks like there's a 20 parking spaces. So like 19 parking spaces variance is what they're looking for. Let me see. Oh, and another thing I want to mention, the site also did have, the whole reason for the postponement last time was to kind of verify the amount of parking that was on site, because we were kind of getting different numbers from varying sources. It seems like in 2012, there was right-of-way dedication, so it took away parking that was on that site. So that's also why they have less, and then kind of makes the site a little, that's basically why we needed the or the postponement, was just to kind of verify what we were showing y'all was accurate, and we had an accurate variance for y'all. So for CUP approval criteria, you guys have probably heard this before, but I'll just go over it briefly. City council may permit a conditional use permit subject to appropriate conditions and safeguards when the council finds that the proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan, is compatible with existing and adjacent uses, is compatible with and preserves the character of the adjacent development in the neighborhoods. Any negative impact has been mitigated, and the proposed use is not material detrimental to health, safety, and welfare. And then for CUP limitation options, city council may stipulate conditions and limitations based on the approval of a CUP in the interest of public welfare. These include but are not limited to time limits, building size and height, enhanced loading and parking requirements, additional landscaping, sidewalks, things like that, placement, orientation of buildings and entryways, buffer yards, landscaping, and signage and restriction design. So this is the subject suite. And this is the west side of the shopping center with the residential to the south. So on this side is where the residential is. And then I'm open to any comments or questions.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Did they say how they plan on circumventing the parking situation?
In terms of like trying to provide the parking, they did not. I believe they said that, and they're here tonight, and they'll have like, talk and answer any questions at the hearing. They were talking about how they've taken, I believe, pictures from other different times of day to kind of prove like there is usually adequate parking. But in terms of on the site plan, there is no, they just are requesting the variance. So.
And then there's also residential behind them. Is that consideration too? I know you're talking about single-family homes in the front. Is that a problem too, the residential's in the back?
Well, it's not necessarily a problem. It just what has made them have to do a conditional use permit, because in our code, it's if it's within 500 feet of single residential, then it triggers the conditional use permit. If it's an event center and it's not over the 2,000 and it's not 500 feet within residential, then they can do it by right.
But what about the fence that's behind the property? Does that negate it, or that's still a concern? That's still a concern, right? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And one of the people we have objecting to it is from that neighborhood there, correct?
Yes, it's let's see, I'll go back to the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is where the building layout is kind of like this, and so it's kind of across this alley. I believe this is like Brockbank. Yeah, this Brockbank alley. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I was reading that it says something where that shopping center lost about, I think, like 20 parking spots or something because of right of way.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that right of way?
It was on this side, right here. I believe there was some parking here. Sorry.
It was a part of the O'Connor expansion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was some right, I believe it was right here, and then right here as well is where the road was expanded, and so those parking spaces had to go away.
By reading the letters, a lot of the complaints were saying like, was one of these spaces used to be an event center before?
That's what, when I talked to I did talk to one of the tenants that were mostly of that salon, that where a lot of the opposition is coming from. They said at one point this suite used to be an event center. I don't believe seeing record of it, but it could be another suite, or it could have been before our requirements of CUP and everything. They didn't have a great experience, it sounded like, with the previous event center in terms of noise and traffic and things like that. I don't believe it's the same people, but that's something you'd have to ask the applicant who's here tonight.
Thank you.
Can I ask, what is your recommendation based on?
After staff review, it's for denial.
What criteria did, struck that caused it to be a denial?
Mostly because it doesn't meet what's in our code. So a lot of times if it doesn't, when we try to do recommendation, we look at the future land use. If it doesn't, then we usually will say, denial. It's basically really based on our code. Or Ken, if you want to jump in, for sure.
And additionally, the parking variance is even with everything else, the parking variance is significant, and we can't support that.
Often when we have a parking variance, we'll look to see what's around it. So if somebody's not going to be providing enough parking, where would that overflow go? So if you were in a commercial area or an area where they are kind of confined to themselves, they'd be causing their own problem. But when we have single-family or other residential around where people can park on the street, that is definitely something we consider when we're looking at denial.
Any other questions? No? Great, thank you.
Alrighty. And then I also have this next case. So this is zoning case 2025-55ZC. It's located at 2525 West Lyndon B. Johnson Freeway. Currently, the zoning is SP1 for RAB, so that detailed site plan with restaurant with attendant accessory use of the sale of alcohol beverages for on-premise consumption. They're requesting the same zoning, but with an addition of a variance to the required parking. After review, staff recommendation is for approval. In terms of public comments, there was one in support and then none in opposition. And this is the subject property. Current zoning. And this is future land use, so it's that regional commercial. And then the property owners that were notified. And then this is their site plan. So basically what brought them in is because they're wanting to expand the restaurant, which then is increasing the amount of seats. And so the RAB needs to be altered since it is adjusting the square footage. And then also since they are having more seats, it makes them require more parking. And since they already have their established parking, they kind of need a variance for it. So the main one is right now it's required to have 122 spaces for the additional seating that they're proposing. And they currently have 114 spaces. Or they're providing 114 spaces, so it'd be an 8 parking space difference. They did also mention that there is a parking agreement that they're trying to work with on the property to the east of them. It's like a kind of small retail center. They currently have plenty of parking, more parking than they're needing. So the applicant has talked about executing a parking agreement with them. But we just think since we have a site plan, if we allow this variance, it doesn't create an issue for the property to the east of them to have to ask for a parking variance down the line if they go into this parking agreement and then those retailers are then needing more parking. And then this was an existing case in 2016. So you can see that right here, the new proposed is they're adding compact spaces. They maxed out on how many compact spaces they can have to try to work towards that required parking. And then this is where the addition is. So this will be an addition of 492 feet, which would bring to 303 seats in the restaurant overall. And so this is subject property. And then this is the east of it, the one I was talking about with the parking agreement. And then to the west. And then the south, so just the highway. And then I'm open to any comments or questions.
Any questions?
Yeah. I just want to say the applicant is they're being proactive in trying to ask for they could do the expansion and open up with the parking agreement on the adjacent property. Right now, that would be fine. They're trying to be proactive to not put the adjacent property in a bind if somewhere down the road they do something. So it's actually very nice what they're doing.
When you said we're only talking about 8 spots?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an 8-spot variance, yeah.
Okay, and how many spots are there overall in the parking lot?
I think they had 120, let's see. 114 is what they're proposing. So with the compact, it comes out to 114.
Okay.
No?
The adjacent site right now has an excess of 23 spots that they are working with the parking agreement for.
Yeah.
But if they change uses in the future, they want to make sure that they're not encumbered.
No, but their portion already has 114 or on this plan.
Right.
So
Right.
we're just talking about eight spaces
Yeah.
difference here.
Yep.
And at least temporarily, they anticipate being able to work with the next door property owner, which has currently plenty of space.
And to the north, there is a Home Depot.
Yeah,
And those
which-
have very
Yeah,
parking spots.
similarly, nobody's going to want to
Parking
park that far away from the Home Depot if they don't have to. Yeah.
spots. Yeah. But, Texas Roadhouse, so,
Haley, I think there might be a discrepancy with the number of parking spaces because when you restripe to the compact, they gain one. So I think it was unclear whether it was actually 7 or 8 with the, because the note said 7. Just FYI.
Oh, the
Yeah.
staff memo or the?
Staff notes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd have to double check that, so.
Do we need to have that clarified before we're making a recommendation?
It looks like there's 11 compact spaces, and they're allowed to have 12.
Or no,
Or is that what,
I think the question was, what exactly is the variance they're asking for? Are they asking for an 8 parking space variance or a 7 parking space variance? And do we need to have that ironed out before we vote?
You guys can move on. Let me just see if
Yeah.
I can
Yeah,
find
And if you
my
give the 8,
reference.
then that
Yeah.
includes 7.
So if we approve
So-
8 or recommend 8, then,
And 7
then
would
we
be
know
fine.
we're good one way or the other. Great. Okay. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you.
before Gina takes the stand here, I want to introduce somebody who's lurking in the corner there. If you would stand up, Dylan. This is Dylan Harvey. He is our new planner. He's taking the space that Jace was in after Jace moved on. So Dylan is trying to ramp up and learn as fast as he can. So you'll see him on a regular basis.
Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gina Costanza Grant with the Planning Department. The next case is 2025-64-CP, located at 251 O'Connor Ridge Boulevard. And this is a request to amend the future land use map from business office to mid-density residential. The staff recommendation is for denial, and we did receive some public comment forms. 2 were in support, and 5 were in opposition. I believe we may have received 1 more in opposition that we handed out tonight. This is the aerial of the subject property, and this is the future land use map. You can see there's a business office adjacent to it to the east, green space and single family to the west and south, and some local commercial on the south. This is the surrounding zoning map and the notification map. This is a description of the uses that they're requesting to go from and to with business office, which is what it's currently designated as. It's typically flexible use area for retail, office, and commercial uses, multi-story structures with a mix of surface and structured parking, and typically office-oriented with some support services. It also lists the likely compatible zoning categories, and the base zoning category is for MFW or the modern-day equivalent of freeway. We will be discussing the companion cases, which rezone after this, but just to give some light on those sub-zoning categories that fit into those land use categories. The request that they're asking for is for mid-density residential. This is medium density, typically 5 stories or less, new structures to be high quality and sited near public transportation nodes, arterial streets, or in proximity to mixed-use areas. The net units per acre, typically 18 to 50, and those are the zoning categories that they are compatible with. The staff recommendation, based on these criteria here, is for denial. The criteria that we balance the recommendation on are these 5. The first one being that the site is physically appropriate. The second one, that it is adjacent to a residential neighborhood when you're going from a non-residential land use transitioning to a residential land use. Also that the residential is also possibly part of a mixed-use development. The third is that the change will not result in a shortage of land designated for non-residential development, that it does not leave a residual tract of non-residentially zoned property, and that it provides for an appropriate transition between residential and non-residential uses through separation by distance, screening, or land use. And again, the staff did not believe that the criteria were met for this, so the recommendation is for denial. And we will go ahead and loop into the development plan and the multifamily concept plan, cases 2025-65-DVP and 2025-66-MFCP, again located at 251 O'Connor Ridge Boulevard from PUD 1 with a base zoning of freeway, with also planned unit development number 1 for freeway uses. They are requesting to change the zoning to PUD 1 for RMF1, which is multifamily residential 1, and also have a multifamily concept plan that requests variances to the multifamily development regulations in section 3.13. The staff recommendation is also for denial. The public comment forms we received are also 2 in support and 5 in opposition. And this is the aerial of the subject property again, future land use, zoning map, notification map, and the development plan. As you can see, the development plan looks more like a boundary survey. The main purpose of that document is simply to change the acreage in the PUD. When the PUD was originally established, it set caps for acreages of each different zoning category that could be applied as property was developed. In 2001, the council actually decided to cap the multifamily residential acreage. That cap was set at 95 acres. And in 2008, there was an ordinance that approved a slight increase to 102 acres to allow for the development of the residences, which is on the south side of O'Connor. So at this point, no multifamily residential acreage remains. So this development plan, if approved, would reallocate that acreage from the freeway district to the multifamily category so that it could be established for multifamily uses. The development plan also is required to request any variances from the base RMF1 district. And the tract on the left that's larger, they're calling tract 1. The smaller tract here is tract 2. The tract on the left is currently developed with a 3-story office building that has been vacant for quite a while. And they are actually requesting to remodel that building to accommodate multifamily units. So it would have multifamily units, approximately 34, or a maximum of 34 units, and related parking. Some of that will be underground and some of it will be surface. On the tract on the right, they are proposing a 14-story tower, a condo tower, with 42 units. And that particular parcel does exceed the density for that RMF1 district. So that is the reason for the other request to vary the density for the development of Tract 2. Tract 1 will not exceed the density based on the number of units they have proposed currently. And then we move on to the multifamily concept plan. This is where more of the details are established, and also any exceptions from The multifamily development standards, which are apart from the base zoning district, are requested to be varied. So there are quite a few. I know your staff report for this one was really long, and a lot of it was charts with the variances. So I'll kind of ask you if you want me to go over each of those in detail or just kind of touch on them. I don't want to.
Why don't you just touch on them for now, and then as people have questions, we'll be able to delve into the details more.
All right. So again, the density is one of the biggest variances. They carried that through on the multifamily concept plan. The other big variances are for lot coverage. Tract 1 complies the way they've laid it out, but again, Tract 2, which is the one with the proposed condo tower, would not comply with the coverage, and they're needing a 9.2% decrease in variance for that one. Regarding open space, Tract 1 is actually in compliance. No variances are needed for any of the open space requirements. For Tract 2, there are variances requested for the open space. We have 3 different categories of open space that they're required to meet. One is the total gross area. The second is usable open space, so that would be in the form of parks, playgrounds, swimming areas, anything like that. And then also a percentage that is reserved for children and youth-oriented activities. For this particular tract with the tower, the variance required, or the establishment for open space required is 30% of the site area, and the applicant is requesting for 20.8%. For the usable open space, they're required to have 25% of the net total floor area. They are not able to provide any, so they need a variance for that one, and the same thing for the open space for youth-oriented activities. On this particular chart, we have variances for parking, building length, maximum building height, maximum building setbacks from the street right-of-way, minimum building setbacks from a private drive, minimum side and rear yard setbacks, and did you want me to go back?
No, you can keep going.
Okay. And then additional, those were for Tract 1. For Tract 2, maximum height, minimum building setbacks from street right-of-way, minimum building setbacks from a private drive, minimum side and rear yard setbacks, and landscaping requirements. The applicant did provide some illustrative drawings, so those help give a little bit more of a idea of how it would look. And this is another view. And these are the site photos. So this is looking at the subject property. This is the portion that has the existing 3-story office building. And this is the portion where the tower would be constructed. This is looking to the east. This is looking to the south. And this is looking to the west. And I am happy to answer any questions you all have.
Questions?
I do have one. When I first joined Planning and Zoning Commission, the property to the north, which is the view, and then directly across or between the view and 114 is the new Rosewood Properties development. And we took commercial out of land use for those 2 projects and built residences. So now it appears there's an ask for even more residences, and the only other company or commercial there is Kimberly-Clark, which is a huge property. So I hear that what I'm seeing is that we want more residential. It's surrounded by residential. Someone's coming in to take commercial and make it residential. Is that the intent for the land use over a period of time? Or are we just looking at this one project after another when they come up?
I think that kind of gets staff recommendation is denial on this, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
And sort of, I assume that means it does not fit well with a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that's where the future land use discussions come in, to have those high-level, what do we want where, what's appropriate. So when we go through, now we do it annually to look at these different areas, to be able to rethink. It gives an opportunity for y'all to give us guidance or for us to propose something to you, and you say yes or no. So in this area, it's still primarily office, and unless we're told to do otherwise, it's going to stay office as a future land use, and therefore that's going to be our basis.
In regards to the open space, I was a little bit confused about, I thought like the pool will count it as open space, the swimming pool.
It can. Typically, it is not on a deck. Typically, the open space for most typical apartments is, a courtyard area with a pool and the related deck. So it's possible, I guess, to consider it as open space, but it is part of the building. It's part of the second floor of the building, and it's a deck that extends from the main tower. So it's not the typical landscaped pool that you would find at ground level.
Which is common with like high-rise buildings.
That is correct. We do not have as many standards for that in the typical MF1 and MF2 districts that are more, 5-story max. Typically, you would see something like that in the urban district overlay.
So, and then in terms of the variances, because there are several variances that I don't know if I understand them, all of them, and on the building, like on the setback, where should it be and where it is right now? Like that's something I would like to know, as well as the parking. I read something about underground parking, and also that they don't meet you mentioned that track 1 does meet the open space, right?
Tract 1 does.
So if they wouldn't be separating the land, they will meet open space.
We did offer that as an option that might gain them more open space, but they did make it clear that the goal was ultimately to subdivide the two pieces. And so because of that, each tract has to stand on its own for the regulations.
Okay, and then going back to the setback, what should be the line and where it is, what they're proposing? Is that on that graph?
Yes. So it's not huge for the building on Tract 1. It's the required is 40 feet or 35 feet plus 5 feet for every story above 2. So at 35 feet and 3 stories, they would need a variance of 5 feet.
Okay. In regards to the building height for track 2, is there a variance?
Yes. The max is 3 stories or 36 feet. At 14 stories and 193 feet, they are needing a variance to add 11 stories and 157 feet in height.
Is that because it's a multifamily, or could they build an office tower there because it's they could have an office, some for office? Is that a possibility?
They could have an office.
Tower.
Yeah, depending on which zoning category it would be. I cannot remember offhand the max height. Ken, can you look for a freeway to see what that max height is? Thank you.
Yeah,
It's the MFW.
that was an MFW, okay.
This is MFW, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so it's,
And I don't believe it was varied in the development plan, so I think it would default.
half the shortest distance between the structure and the nearest developed single-family lot. So
I thought the question was about the height
Yeah.
for, yeah.
that, yeah.
They
that's-
literally base the height on the distance, you would take the distance of that tract and measure it to the nearest single family as the crow flies,
Okay,
and just say it was 100 feet till you hit the nearest single family lot, then it would be a 50-foot height for the building.
okay. So approximately what kind of height would they be able to build on 2?
Ken, can you do an as the crow
Two.
flies
Yeah, give me a-
measurement?
I mean, the residential is just to the, I guess, kind of the southwest across
it's not
O'Connor
that
Ridge.
far.
So it's probably 60, maybe 70 feet would be the width of the street, so half of that would be 35 feet. So they
So,
couldn't do.
so
the-
about 3 stories.
Right,
So even if they were doing it as office, they really couldn't build it any taller than what they could, what would be the required for the residential.
Not in this particular area.
So, and what's there next to it? I mean, the existing building is 3 stories. So it's basically they could build something similar in height to that. Okay.
The urban district overlay, which is, around the Lake Carolyn, in that area, we do have a different set of standards that does allow for a lot more height and a lot more density. It's just, they don't apply in this area, so the only venue to get that variance is through amending the standards.
Other questions? No, doesn't look like it. Thank you.
Okay.
Now we're on to item 11.
Okay, that's mine as well.
All right.
This case is 2025-95-ZC, located at 1018 East Union Bower Boulevard. The applicant is requesting to change the zoning from R75, single family, to SP2, or generalized site plan, for R2.5, which is four-family residential zoning with variances. The staff recommendation is for approval. We did not receive any responses in support, and we did receive one in opposition. This is aerial of the property in question. There is an existing single-family house on the eastern portion of the lot. And this is the future land use map. It does designate the area for compact neighborhood, which does allow for some of the more dense single-family type duplex, triplex, and quadplexes. This is the surrounding zoning map. This is the notification map. And this is the proposed site plan. The applicant is proposing eventually to subdivide the 2 tracts. So again, we have a situation where they have to kind of think ahead and design the development standards for the site plan as it would ultimately be developed. Because they are trying to develop the eastern tract first with the quadplex, they are trying to retain the existing single-family home, which also has this garage here. It's a detached garage. So they are showing that they will jut the property line in that area to maintain the setback. And ultimately, their goal is to demolish the single-family home and the garage on the western track as well. These are some of their illustrative drawings that they provided. And this is looking at the subject property. You can see the existing house on the west and, or I'm sorry, on the east, and the vacant portion that they want to develop with the fourplex on the right. This is looking to the north of the subject property, looking to the west, looking to the east. And I am happy to take any questions that you might have.
Questions?
Yeah, you have the map that shows the percentages of the area that y'all had before, showing the other partials, the percentage of the partials compared to it. You know, when we were looking at English Street, y'all had
Doesn't
a,
come into play. Doesn't come into play.
Oh, okay. For the neighborhood protection ordinance does not affect when you are developing for a fourplex zoning.
If it did affect it, what would be the consequences?
That would be only if they were develop a single-family home. It would, if they were developing a single-family home, then it would be required to be within 80% of the lot width and the lot area of any other single-family lots beside it or across from it.
Of the largest of those, or of those on average?
We take the size of each one, 3 to the right, 3 to the left, and whatever's directly across, we add the square footage together and divide it by the number of lots to come up with the average. Then they have to meet 80% of that average.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the surrounding lots?
Sure.
And that one directly to the south, is that still single family?
This one right
Flag
here,
lot? Yeah.
I believe that's a church.
Church.
Oh,
It
that
is
one?
single.
Oh, yes.
It's
Yeah.
zoned single family, but it's developed
Yeah.
with a church. And then these are duplexes, I believe, on the west side. And this is a single family house. These are apartments, single family house. These might be small lot. They don't look like they're single family. Maybe R6. Let's see. We can look. Yes. So here's the zoning.
when you pass Apple Tree, them are all big lots down through there, all the way to Irving Heights.
Yep. Yeah, once you get over to the other side of the school, both sides of the street, it's all big lots.
So Gina, how is this oriented on this? I'm just looking at this drawing. How is this building oriented? Are they taking the entire lot for, looks like 4 multifamily homes, or is it?
Yeah.
There would be a fourplex on each lot.
Oh,
2 fourplexes?
Yes.
And
But
which?
the plan is to build the one on the right first, and then to build the one on the left.
so it's going to be a total of 8
Total of 8.
homes.
Correct.
How are they oriented, though? Which way are they facing?
Yeah, so north is actually south on the bottom of this, so.
Yeah,
It's flipped.
it's flipped.
Why they did it that way, I don't know.
So,
Does
so
the
they,
illustration show that? I'm so sorry.
so the,
Pardon?
Does the illustration show that? How is it
Yeah.
oriented with the map?
I believe the side would have to face the street just because of how narrow it is, and they would have a driveway going down the side. We did have a pre-development meeting several months ago, and that's kind of the design that I remember.
So what we're looking at the side of the illustration, if you were to go back,
So the building would be oriented this way with a shared fire lane access easement to this point. They're proposing having parking on the back.
So from the street view, they would, you would see the side of the building?
I believe so. That's my understanding.
Oh, can you put your microphone on?
The handout that came this evening, that shows the orientation pretty well, I think.
And
Which
the
I actually
applicant,
think's
the applicant will be here, so I know she'll be able to
Yeah.
answer some of your questions in better detail.
With the side along the,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
There's something in the packet that shows it's facing the street.
Okay.
it's the back page of that few pages.
So just a new guy's question. Is that a concern, having the side view of a building facing the street?
No, it's
It's-
not the
It's
side
not the
view.
side.
It's actually the front view facing the street, facing Union Bower there.
Is the front, okay.
Yeah. Now, the parking's in the back,
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's in
and they
here.
have the circular drive in the front. But this is just illustrative, though.
Correct. We can't hold them to that.
Yeah, so they could do it with the side view like you were talking about. That they're not bound by this. Yeah. It could be this doesn't actually work.
I mean, we try to get them to think through those things so they don't get caught up at building permit, having to redesign the whole site plan, but
And Gina, out of curiosity, what are the parking requirements for a fourplex?
it's based on, I believe, the number of bedrooms. I remember when they had, was it 2 spaces per unit? 2 spaces per unit.
And that's just per unit? That's not even considering how many bedrooms there are in there?
For a fourplex, yes, it's
Okay.
treated more like a single-family home.
Oh, geez. Okay, thank you.
Once we get into the multifamily, then it's based on the number of bedrooms.
And so what we'd be looking at, making a recommendation on is really a proposal to be able to have 2 fourplexes.
Correct. Because we're rezoning the entire property for that zoning.
Yeah.
The existing single-family home will be legally non-conforming until they take it down.
Okay. Any other questions?
Can you go back to the graph showing the area and no another one? Yeah, probably that one.
This is the future land use?
So the property to the west, I guess, that one, so there are, that could be considered, I mean, that's 4 duplexes, so like 2 fourplexes, I guess, right?
Yeah, they're all in one structure, though.
Right. Right, all in one structure, in a
Yes.
smaller lot.
Yes. Well, yeah, it would be
Looks- I don't
divided
know,
in
at least
half,
for by-
yes.
I don't know if this is up to scale, but at least,
Yeah, this would be divided down the middle.
yeah.
Jan, they've had a few pre-development meetings already with fire and traffic and stuff already, correct?
Yes.
Can
So
you go
they
back?
are very well aware of all the obstacles that, you know, that they were looking at before they came up with the design.
And isn't that part of why they are showing, at least in their conceptual materials, having the building being in front of the main park, they have a turnaround drive, but the main parking's back behind the building because they can't have the building too far away from the roadway because of the fire.
Correct.
But, yeah.
And eventually, should they replat, they can plat, you know, up here as that document shows in your packet, but it is illustrative. But if they were to go forward and eventually replat, they could, once they demolish the single-family home, if they wanted to provide a shared U access, and it would meet, you know, the requirements for the turn radius or the, radius for the fire truck to get in there and all that, they would be fine doing that. They could add it when they plat or replat.
Can you go back to the variances?
I don't think I have the table here. I do have,
The only variance is for the lot is like a foot or like a half-foot variance for the lot width.
yeah, the
Okay.
lot width is, the back is 150 feet, but the front of the lot is 149 point something. So if they divide it in half, either one of the lots or both of the lots is going to be slightly short of that frontage.
Okay,
So it's less than a foot.
okay.
I just want to add, the future land use in this area is compact neighborhood. So you go a little further to the east, it is more the traditional neighborhood, the larger lot, single family. This is also part of the nursery neighborhood plan area, and we're finishing that up. We're proposing to present it to the Planning and Development Committee at the end of May. And so hopefully we'll get it to y'all in June. So part of that is relooking at some of the land uses we went through with the neighborhood. We had a public meeting a month or so ago. But we talked about the future land use, a couple minutes ago about another case. So this is compact neighborhood in this area at this time.
Do you have a sense of what is likely to be recommended or suggested in regards to this area going forward?
I believe in this area, we're keeping it compact neighborhood. A lot of the North Nursery, especially around Grauweiler and Nursery itself, they went to the community village. There were some apartments up there trying to relook at, kind of re-envision the area to more of a mixed-use type use. But down here a little bit further south, I believe they kept it as the compact neighborhood.
Any other questions? No? All right, thank you. Item 12.
Alrighty. So this is for a special fence plan. This is 2025-103 SFP. It's located at 800 Elwood Drive. The current zoning is R6, so that's single-family residential 6. The request is to allow a 6-foot tall board-on-board fence within the 20-foot required front yard setback along Mimosa Street, being 0 feet from the property line. After review, staff finding is no undue hardship. In terms of public comment, there were 2 in support and none in opposition. So this is the aerial. Future land use, so it's the traditional neighborhood. Zoning. Property owners that were notified. And so for special fence project plans, the criteria is it must be determined that all the following findings are made. The requested variance does not violate the intent of the chapter, will not adversely affect surrounding properties, will not adversely affect public safety, and special conditions exist which are unique to the applicant or property. After review, staff believes that it does not meet all the criteria for approval. So this property is zoned R6, but it does have a duplex on it. It was built in 1952, so it's considered legal nonconforming. And this is the part of the fence, how this kind of came to us. Code enforcement had discovered it. It looks like panels were replaced. Then after, further investigation, that there was no active permit for the replacement of it. And since this is the property line, and this is Elwood and then Mimosa, it's considered double frontage. So the setback of 25 feet for Elwood also applies to Mimosa. So technically they're really supposed to have it there. But the applicant mentioned this is a fence that's been here forever. And, off through aerials, what we can notice, it has been there a long time. It looks like it was constructed between 2003, 2005. So it's been there a very long time. But now it's kind of come to our attention, so they're asking for that variance. So they basically just replaced the panels that were there, but didn't move it closer to the road. And so this is what the pictures from code enforcement, so you can see the new addition. And then these photos are from Google Street View. So this is before, so you can kind of tell that there hasn't been a change in the location. And I'm happy to answer any comments or questions.
So you're saying that the fence has been there for over 20 years. Was it in violation when they installed it?
Yeah. It's a thing where obviously an older neighborhood, and the Mimosa Street, so the street where this is on, and right here, it had an expansion. So they widened the road a little bit, built it up. It didn't really affect the property line of this neighborhood, but it looks like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's the neighbor to the south. So this neighbor used to have a fence almost in like that same location, but when the right-of-way was obtained, they had to take their fence down, but this has remained. After review from all the departments, there wasn't any concerns unless, Cody, unless there's anything I'm missing there, but.
Well, so the neighbor had a similar fence, but I mean, was it in violation when it was built? Not did it end up as a problem because there was an expansion of the right-of-way? That seems like a different issue. So, I mean, expansion of the right-of-way, it seems like the fence was probably fine when it was built. So that's what I'm trying to get clarity on.
The fence that was on the property to the south that you see here with the driveway, we don't really have a good picture like from the ground of it. All we know is from the aerial photos, we can tell there was a fence there. I could not tell you the exact materials and height of that fence, but there was one there. The one for the subject property, can you go back to yeah. So there's been a fence there for at least 20 years, and it would have been, the corner lot setback issue for a fence has not changed during that time. So whenever it was originally built, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it would have been technically in violation of the fence ordinance at that time.
But the right-of-way,
Didn't have an impact on it. If anything, it makes it better because instead of the road going, the road used to go straight right there, and it was a weird, bad intersection. And I think maybe Cody can talk to it more, but they redid it so it actually curves, so there's a little bit better of, go to the aerial photo if you would. Oh.
I don't know if it really shows it, but.
Okay, go to something that doesn't have the thing. Okay, there you go. So it kind of curves now, so they kind of smoothed out Elwood, so it wasn't just a like zigzag kind of thing, and they smoothed it out and curved that road. So now the fence is actually not really as bad even as it was originally because of the curve of the street. The only thing it would impact potentially would be the property owner to the south, and they've been living with it without complaint for however many years.
yeah, and this only came to the city's attention because they were fixing the fence.
Basically.
Okay, question. When y'all guys take out roads and y'all redo them and do all the infrastructure and everything else, y'all typically take pictures, video, everything of everybody's properties. And y'all normally go through, and if it affects anything, y'all bring it up to code or building inspections and say, this is not in compliance, but we're going to do it. Was that the case possibly with this one?
Walt, can we defer to you on that one?
And normally, when we do, as a procedure, we photograph and document the existing conditions before the project starts. I'm not sure about this particular case.
So trying to understand this, so really right now, there's not really an issue with the fence.
There hasn't been any complaints, and then review from the other departments, there haven't been any like outstanding comments or concerns about it existing where it is today or how it has been.
So the only problem is really the setback from the street, which
correct.
is about how much then, the setback?
25 feet. And so the applicant, that's also why they requested it, because they're, what they're using, the area as a backyard would be severely limited at that point. So that's why they're kind of wanting to request it, since it's been there and they want to maintain the backyard that they do have.
Yeah, can you show us
I
the
see.
property and what actually moving the fence would result in?
It's not moving, it's just allowing it to,
Well, like if they had to tear down that fence and put a fence up where the 25 feet, I mean, how much?
it would be like around here. So they would have like a slither. So if this is to scale, this is 19 feet. So we'll say like that.
Yeah.
So, and then this is since it's a duplex, this is their neighbor or the other unit. So they wouldn't have much of a backyard at that point.
Okay.
That's if they fenced it in, but I mean, most people want their backyards fenced in, so.
Could they do something else along Mimosa, a different type of fence, maybe 4 foot with visibility through it? That would be more,
Yeah, if they wanted
Legal?
to, yeah, they are allowed to have a 4 foot, or it's not to exceed 48 inches and 50% visibility is what they can do on Mimosa, if they wanted to keep it at the property line.
I guess can you go back to the picture of the fence that they installed? I guess my only issue is really the looks. I mean, why can they not complete it all the way?
Oh, like replace the whole fencing? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, don't do it halfway. I mean, just do it all the way right, no?
Yeah, I mean, that's something you
That-
can ask the applicant, we don't,
Yeah, I'll ask him.
back part there, so is that
back part as in, like this part?
home is that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is like the front of their property. So this is where, let's see if I can get a better photo. So this is where the new panel is, and then that photo, where that cone is, see, so this is the front of the property, or kind of the side, so that's where, yeah.
So go back to,
This one?
yeah.
Okay.
So measuring it out roughly on the aerial photo, the fence would have to go basically inside, so kind of right there. So it'd be way inside.
Mm-hmm. That's if they wanted to do the 6 feet board on board.
I mean, my thoughts on this is like, yeah, I mean, I don't have much of a problem with it, but just that the whole fence is replaced. I mean, this is a huge space they're gaining on their backyard that a lot of neighbors may not be getting it. So I think the whole fence will have to be replaced.
Any other questions? No? All right, 1 second. We're on to item 13, so I need to step out for a minute. Turning it over to Vice Chair Hack for item 13, and then I'll be back.
Good evening again. The next case is 2025-104-ZC. It's located at 1901 West Irving Boulevard. They are requesting to rezone from professional office to commercial office. Staff recommendation is for approval. We did receive one letter of opposition and none in support. This is the subject property. The reason for the request to change to the next zoning up basically is because the applicant is wanting to rent one of their lease spaces to a trade and vocational school. That school is involved in teaching repairs for HVAC equipment and commercial refrigeration units. And the professional office district does not allow for those types of schools. They allow for dance studios and karate studios, gymnastics, that kind of thing. For the next zoning category up, commercial office, they do have a category that will show in a later slide that does permit a business like a trade or vocational school. This is the future land use map. They are in compliance with the future land use, even with the zoning change. This is the surrounding zoning map and the notification map. And this is just a list of the additional uses that would be permitted going from professional office to commercial office. So commercial office will permit any use in the district they already have, plus it would add day nurseries and kindergartens, nursing homes, hospitals, and professional and business services and offices completely within an enclosed building, excluding any type of hotel or motel operations. So that is the category that would accommodate a for-profit technical school. And this is the subject property. So this is the building right here, and one of the lease spaces in that building is where they want to locate the school. And this is looking to the west. This is looking to the south across Irving Boulevard. And this is looking to the east. Since the property does side on Alden, this is from the parking lot of the subject property looking east along Alden. And this is on Alden Street looking at the property boundary between the subject property and the adjacent residential to the north. And I am happy to take any of your questions. Just as an informational comment, Traffic and Transportation did make the comment that at the time of CO, certificate of occupancy, should this zoning get approved, they would discuss whether a traffic management plan would be required. That is very typical of any type of school.
What other businesses is in that building?
I believe there is a barber training school in there as well. I am not sure of the other occupants. I know the applicant will be here, so they could answer that for you.
Yeah, there's a medical clinic. That's one of their primary tenants, is a medical clinic.
Just from an educational perspective, why is the HVAC vocational school different than others? Is it because of the equipment they use?
Yes.
Okay. So if they bring an HVAC school, they'll be bringing commercial equipment and commercial cars and stuff in there?
Yes.
Well, it's a vocational school, so it's not like a university or a public school. It's a business school, vocational school. So it's looked at differently than what you would think of as a school system type of setup, if that's your question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand.
Well, it's a business school. It's an adult school. It's to learn a trade, which is different than just a normal university or, a 4-year or 2-year school.
Right. But you already have a trade school in there, teaching barber.
Yeah, no longer there. Okay. This is Herb. He's our chief building inspector.
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just gonna say vocational school is different because you have to have that equipment in there teaching people hands-on training.
Right.
So it's not necessarily just like a classroom school.
Right. And that's what I was
So
wondering.
it's heavier equipment and hands-on mechanics.
Like if you were learning to repair X-ray equipment or medical equipment, things like that, that would be more of a vocational type school.
Is that land owned by one owner, all of that land?
Yes.
So if we change this, I'm going to parrot Mr. Denny, looking down the road, then if the owner decides to sell that property, you can put a nursing home on there, a hospital, some of those other uses.
I don't know that the size would support a hospital. It could maybe support an outpatient type facility for sure. It is not that big though.
But it could be a rehab or clinic or, some,
Correct.
you said nursing home.
Yes.
I mean, it could be a small rehab facility that somebody could put in there. And when you say traffic study, Gina, I noticed there was only, I felt it was a little awkward getting into that property off of Alden because you had to go all the way past the building and then turn in. So when you say a traffic management study, is that what you mean in terms of how you manage?
I'll let Cody
Hi, Cody.
take that one.
So traffic management studies are really not a too in-depth study like a traffic impact study would be that looks more at the driveways. Just really lets us know how the school is going to operate to make sure that we don't have any queuing issues essentially. As far as the driveways go, unless you really tear down the building, those are grandfathered the way that they are and would just remain and operate as they do today.
So a vocational school, I'm guessing, I don't know, that usually means traffic in the evenings because you're teaching people trade after their regular job, I'm sure. So
Well,
not necessarily. Okay.
Mo-
That's
Most
why I'm asking.
HVAC schools, I can tell you from experience, I mean, you're normally 8 to 6, Monday through Friday. It's either a 2-week course or you got a 10-week course. 10-week courses are typically on Saturdays from like 8 to 6, 8 to 7. So they're crash courses every Saturday. So that's basically, you'll have a little bit of traffic going in the morning. Most of the time you get like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes for lunch. You eat real quick, so there's not a lot of traffic leaving. People normally bring their lunch because the classes are so fast-paced. And they're putting one in diagonally across from that at the old YMCA. That's where the new CTE building is going for the Irving Independent School District. And so when they put that in, they'll also have HVAC classes for high school students and everything else right there.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on.
I think we're done.
Our next item, discussion of possible amendments to Planning and Zoning Commission Rules of Procedure. Just as a refresher, this issue came up, was suggested to us by one of the council members. So sort of we got the rules, our rules and their rules to compare last time, but we, at least a lot of us thought, it might be helpful to have a presentation from the staff sort of explaining some of how the rules work. We don't have an action item on this topic tonight, so we aren't taking any action on this at all tonight. We're really just getting a chance to have a sort of a refresher on how our rules work and to be able to begin to think about whether we think there are any changes that might be useful as we look at it. I mean, I think it sounds like it's been a long time since the rules were originally drafted. So could be that there might be changes that could be warranted at this point. So, but we thought this was the first step in that process. And if we think it's worth pursuing further, we would just ask that it be put on an agenda for further discussion at probably, a later meeting whenever there's time. So, all right.
Yeah, so
you.
what he said. So what we did, actually, we're trying to use AI a little bit. So what we did is we took the rules of procedure for council and P&Z and tried to compare those. So that's what we did is we tried to summarize and try to give a one-to-one in terms of what the two rules are. There were a lot of places there wasn't a whole lot of overlap, but so I can go through these really quickly, but the main thing I know that kind of brought it up is the decorum discussion, and is there anything from what council had done, I believe it was in 24, so they just did it last September. Here, September 24, that they did in response to some of the experiences they had had, and to think about if there's anything that y'all might want from the experiences that we've recently had. So they just kind of talk about the meetings, both regular and special meetings, who can call those meetings. If y'all stop me if you want to discuss anything. Work sessions as well before the meetings, attendance. We have our regulations. This was in November 21. Council did subsequently adopt some regulations, we call it kind of the 75% rule, where they do expect you to attend 75% of the meetings. So every month, April keeps up with the attendance, and we do report that to the city secretary's office. It would be up to the council if anybody starts having a lot of absences and they want to relook at somebody. They can appoint or unappoint anybody any time of year. But I'd be very surprised if they ever did that. But that is under council's prerogative. Council, of course, doesn't have similar attendance requirements. A quorum, this is interesting. We're a little bit different there. So for both council and P&Z, 5 members is a quorum. For P&Z, a majority of vote of those present is needed to pass motion. So if we have 7 people, you can do a 4-3. Council can't do that. So if they have 7 people and you do a 4-3, then you have to have 5 to approve. That's actually in the charter, because that came up a few months ago, and so that was interesting. So for council, you have to have at least 5 people vote for approval, no matter how many people are there. So if you only have 5 people there, everybody there has to vote in order for something to be approved. Canceling meetings, and the chair, vice chair, or staff can cancel a meeting if need be, as long as we notify everybody. Ex parte communications, we do have a section, and we revised ours in 21. That's basically just making sure that you limit the amount of conversation you have among each other, and you don't want to. I think you already all had the ethics. You don't want to be communicating by text and essentially do a walking quorum.
On that one, it's talking about communications among commissioners or communications with somebody else. Because like a couple of times, I think you all even sent, somebody had contacted you, wanted to talk to one of us, something like that. I mean, which kind of situation is this addressing?
This is among commissioners.
Okay.
So you're always welcome to talk to someone in the public. We just, when we send that, when people will, because like if people work in Dallas, they're directed to talk to the P&Z. They are recommended to talk to the P&Z. For us, we don't release any of your information. So if they get your information, I can promise you they didn't get it from staff. But if somebody does say, I want to talk with somebody, that's your prerogative. If you want to reach out to them, if you want to respond, if you want to release your information, we're going to let you know that request was made. And if you do, please let us know and let us know what that discussion was. If you don't, that's your prerogative as well. But that's when you get that email, just letting you know we got the request.
So it's just if some of us were talking, run into one of the commissioners and talking about something that's coming up before us or something like that. What about, but not members of the public? I didn't read the rule that way, so that's why I was a little bit concerned.
I read it the same as you do, Chair Skinner. When we drafted this, the idea was there are certain cases that come before you that are solely within the purview of the commission. And so if you are having communications with applicants or property owners or neighbors outside of the meeting, the rules say that you should inform staff. And the reason for that is just to have everybody on an equal playing field when you're making the decisions. If somebody can't come speak at a meeting but has spoken to you, then everybody is aware of that. That's the purpose of that rule.
Okay. Would that apply then to like a council member reaching out to somebody about something that was in their district?
If it's a case before you.
Yes, that hasn't, we're getting ready to vote on.
Right, then the rules say that you should forward those communications to staff to be able to distribute. Certainly, any conversations occurring, you guys are aware of your ethical responsibilities. This largely has to do with if you're receiving individual communications, particularly in writing, but just that you forward those on to staff for everybody to be aware of.
Okay. And for something that's already passed us, like one time I think somebody had reached out to the staff, they wanted to talk with me about something that we'd already voted on. I don't think I had a chance to visit with them anyway, but would that have been something I would have needed to report back if I had talked to them about it?
No, I mean, it wasn't, it's not something you'd be currently voting on.
Okay.
So you're just discussing it at that point. As long as it's not going to go up again, but you can't predict that.
Okay, or like somebody who comes up and says, hey, just wanted to get a better sense of why you were in favor or opposed or something like that, that would be fine. Okay.
How about if we meet not on P and Z topic though? Like me and Debbie, we're on a different board as well, so we work together.
Yeah, it's just as long as you're not communicating about
Any case.
something that you might be voting on. And it's not, if two people are communicating, it's not an issue, sometimes it doesn't stop there unintentionally, Quickly, got about 5 minutes. So minutes, of course, both P and Z and council keep minutes. Staff, we serve as the secretary for the commission. Agendas and notices are the same, basically. 72 hours is the required posting. I don't think the legislature is trying to tinker with that. There's some other minor things like impact fees and things that they are, but that's irrelevant. Withdrawal of applications, when we amended this in November 21, we did try to put some specifics in here for P and Z when people withdraw so that you don't have to take action on each of those. So when they submit their request to withdraw, it depends on whether you need to take action or not. So if we've already sent notice, then that is when you have to take action. Other than that, if they don't want to move forward with the case, it's not like we're going to force them to move forward with the case. So that's what that section is. It just kind of puts the criteria as to when you would actually need to take action.
On the bottom part of that, if I'm reading it correctly, it says that if they submit the withdrawal after the notice has gone out, still on the agenda, but no public hearing is held. But I thought we did hold a public hearing on the ones that were on the agenda.
The intent was that we put it on the agenda and saying it's been withdrawn. I don't know that that's been our action that we've been doing, because if somebody is no longer requesting something, then it's status quo. There's really not any discussion particularly to be held.
But if it's on the agenda, don't we then have to, I mean, typically we will do a motion to postpone or something, but before we can do that, we have to have the public hearing.
If somebody went to the effort to come, then they have the right
Exactly,
to
yeah,
speak.
they may not understand. I mean, the notice went out and it listed it. They've showed up to speak on the topic. Okay.
So they can be heard. I don't know if it'd be a public hearing per se, but they can be heard because they've been there. Because if they've withdrawn, there's nothing to discuss officially, but they want to be heard.
What about if they want to postpone and they don't show up? I'd like some clarity about that because we voted to deny a case at our last meeting when the applicant did not show up. And I thought that was a little unfair, particularly because there was a miscommunication with the applicant. I would rather us be very specific here that if the applicant is not here, we just allow a postponement. I think that's the polite thing to do.
Or does withdraw mean entirely
Yeah.
withdrawn? Like it's
Yeah.
entirely off the table, not postponing to a
Yeah, this is
subsequent
not
meeting?
postponed. Yeah.
Okay.
So it probably, the comparison, we didn't pick that up because council doesn't have anything similar. If somebody postpones, it's not if somebody doesn't attend, it's not a requirement to postpone. When we did the amendments, we made it as an option because there were times where P and Z said, we just don't want this to move forward with it. We don't want to waste our time on whatever it is anymore. So it is definitely P and Z's prerogative. It's not a requirement to postpone. If you want to postpone, you can postpone. If you want to act on it, you can act on it. So the fact that the person didn't come and you wanted to postpone to give them that time, that was completely appropriate. But it's your choice to do that. You don't have to do it.
But we actually voted to deny the case.
Right, and that's your prerogative as well, is to take action on it. So
I just feel like it's unfair to deny a case when the applicant isn't here.
And that's the commission's
Prerogative.
choice
Okay.
to do. Yeah, it's just before it had to be postponed. And this gives you that choice because sometimes, again, there's cases that you just don't want to see again, honestly. And that's why it allows you to just move it on to council, let council do what they're going to do versus having to take it back. Suspension of rules. So with the unanimous vote of the P&Z president at the time, you can suspend the rules of the rules of procedure. If you want to amend the rules, you can introduce any amendments, but they cannot be acted on until the next meeting. And then, of course, the consent agenda is basically the same between P and Z and council. So the public hearing procedures, just touching on these real quick. P and Z is a little bit shorter because you are a recommending body, and council is the final determination of the cases, the final disposition. So of course, P and Z applicants have 5 minutes to present, and that's all the applicants, everybody who's representing the case. People in support or in opposition have 5 minutes, and then the applicant has 5 minutes for rebuttal. And here there's some language about the chair being able to interrupt and redirect people if need be, determine if people are out of order. The chair can also fix lengths to how long people can appear and have some other parameters if there's a lot of people and try to get them to combine and compile their comments. So council, similarly, we have 5 minutes at P&Z for the applicant. Council has 10, and that was just recently reduced from 20. So they used to have 20 minutes for the applicant. The people in opposition or support have 3 minutes, or again, P&Z has 5. And then the rebuttal for the applicant, they also have 5 as well as P&Z. So trying to compare those a little bit. The mayor also has the ability, of course, at council to, if there's multiple speakers on the same topic, then they can encourage people to reduce those, being a little more concise. Voting procedures, basically the same. We updated ours, our terminology a little bit in November. We also did some adjustments to meet some of the requirements of the subdivision, as Chapter 212 of the state local government code. So that's why our terminology is a little bit different, but the actions obviously are similar. So into decorum and debate. We're running out of time, so I don't want to spend too much time, but I think that the story here is we have 4 items in P and Z. Basically, we want people to be nice and behave themselves, and council got a lot more specific, again, due to some of the experiences they had. So what we wanted to provide all this so that you could think about if there's anything that you wanted to carry over from council into P and Z or not, but we think it's helpful to have these kind of side by side to decide what types of, hopefully we won't need them. But if there's anything that you wanted to address, something that at council that they saw what P&Z went through and said, we don't want people to have signs. So they limited the amount of signs and what they could bring in. So for council, some of y'all were here, they had the big digital signs outside telling people don't bring your signs in. So there are things like that that council learned through P&Z's experiences, what they did and didn't want to see happen again. So I will leave it there unless there's anything that y'all want to get into in detail.
Any questions y'all have for staff on this, or?
Could you
comments?
share this side-by-side comparison with us so we have a chance to digest this and then?
It's in your packet.
I
happy-
missed it completely. Oh, it's at the beginning.
One
I
question?
went right to the case notes. Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
One question is you said that each applicant has 5 minutes, correct?
Yes, in P&Z.
Okay, that's per case, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have a comp plan case and a zoning case, then, and that's, y'all may not notice it, but that's often what we do is we will give them 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody will come together.
And that's fine. I was just curious about the incident that we went through. And, you had a application, but we had, 7 hours of testimony.
Yeah, and that was really in the public hearing portion, and that's each person in support or opposition gets 5 minutes under our rules. They only get 3 minutes under the council rules. But we had 2 items, so we technically had 2 different public hearings in our evening session. Now, most of the speakers were in the first of those public hearings, but then we also had a work session that day, which we hadn't originally planned on, and they got to speak during the citizen comment. So potentially, a lot of people could have spoken 3 times. I don't know that anybody, or not much of anybody, spoke all 3 times, but there were definitely some people who spoke twice.
And on this, we have the, basically, if we look at it as council does, we can, after a certain number of speakers, we can limit the speaking time?
Well,
except by
what
voted on?
council did at the beginning of the council meeting, it applied to all the zoning cases that night, is they reduced the 3 minutes down to 2. So no matter what the zoning case was, all the speakers had 2 minutes.
Okay.
So that's one way council got through it faster as well.
Okay.
To be clear in regards to communications, so anything we talk to anybody in regards to a case, pending case, we have to let staff know.
Ideally, right, because that way everybody knows the same information.
That it's including city council as well.
If it's something that could be pertinent to the decision that you're making.
But we can talk among any case, we can talk about any case after we have already made a decision, but even if it hasn't gone through city council.
Carolyn, I don't know if you want to, I mean, you can always, it's not our place to tell you whether you can talk to city council or not.
No,
yeah.
not us, meaning like talked about the case either among us or with someone else, even if we have already made the decision, but it hasn't gone through city council.
Yeah, you don't have to, if it's already gone through P and Z, you don't have to particularly tell us because it's not information that we would need to disperse anymore to everybody else.
Because it's no longer pending before us.
Right. So what we're trying to do is, like, if you talk to a neighborhood, is that's more our thought, is if you're talking to a neighborhood and they've told you some history about the area or something, then that could be helpful to share with everybody. But we want to be able to do that neutrally versus you communicating with everybody one-on-one.
But yeah, it seems like it would apply to talking to a council member before our P and Z, but not after our P and Z meeting. All right.
I'll just
Yeah.
make one comment. I think the nature of these questions does raise that the technical language of this rule seems overbroad. Like, for example, I mean, like, just the question about whether or not we can talk with councilmen, to get their perspective. And council doesn't have a similar rule. So I think it's something to consider if this comes back to us.
Any other comments for tonight? Is there interest in having this as another discussion item in the future?
I don't know about discussion item, but I think some of them are worth looking at.
Yeah.
What council adopted,
Yeah.
in case we run into similar issue again. At least we have something to lean back on.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it sounds like if you could put it on the agenda, ideally next time, unless the schedule is too
We can
packed.
always adjust it to prepare, like council has. It doesn't necessarily mean we need to use it,
Yeah.
but it's here and available to be used if need so be.
Yeah, I specifically like the decorum of the meeting, signs and stuff like that.
So what we'll look for from y'all next time we bring it back. We do have a heavier load next month of cases, but they're
Right.
not real complex cases, so we don't know how fast we'll get through them.
Well-
But what we'll look to y'all for direction in terms of what specifics you want to pull over into your rules of procedure, and then we can start drafting that. But we'll need to know the details of what you're looking for.
I just had one question about the time limit. The 5 for us, is that something that we have just adopted as like a commission? Like, where did that number come from?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah.
Is that something that we could adjust or?
Yes.
We can talk about? Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay. All right. The only other item here, any future agenda items besides the one we just talked about? No. All right, then the work session is adjourned at 7:06 PM, and we will meet over there shortly.